Honestly, at the gym here, we'll have kids do things like this if they tend to be a little bit slower twitch, if they're not as athletic, and they struggle to have a mind muscle connection with things like a clean or something like that. We will try to figure out how to get them to feel their legs, how to get them to feel more explosive, how to get them to feel stronger. We're gonna go into some old school bodybuilding tactics that you guys can use immediately, and we're gonna start right now. Okay, let's get right into it. The first big thing out of this book that I want to talk about is gonna be called demon training. Okay, so demon training is a form of pre-exhaust. Okay, so if we're looking at this and we're going to pre-exhaust, we're gonna say, let's hit one set on leg extensions. Okay, so select the poundage you can do on your own for 10 to 12 reps on leg extensions. And then we're going to have your partner on the second set. So we're going to do 8 to 10 reps. Okay, then you're going to have your partner immediately decrease the poundage by 30%, and you're going to continue to go until you achieve positive failure without any help. Okay, so zero help. And then you're going to have your partner assist you in completing an additional 6 to 8 reps. So where they might pull up on the cable on that leg extension and then push back down, pull up a little bit. And you're going to do this working through this series. Okay. Now, where we get into the pre-exhaust is you might do that as one set, and then you come back and you do another pre-exhaust too. And then you get into that big time anabolic lift like a back squat. So if we're doing leg extensions for the pre-exhaust demon training, you're going leg extension, hack squat, leg extension, back squat, leg extension, leg press. So you're doing almost like a double pre-exhaust with a lot more fatigue early on. And then you're getting into that big time actual compound movement. Now on the compound movement, what we're going to see is that's where we're going to start to do things that will use forced reps as well. The reason why I want to come off of this book and use this is that this is one of those books that you can jump right into and be like, okay, I've got this baseline set up of how I have my actual workouts, how I have my training system. Now we can look at this and say, all right, let's just try to look for, I got somebody stuck in a plateau. Let's try to find something crazy. If we're looking for something crazy, we could look at 6 demon basic. Let's go into dog crap training, because that was like super big in the mid 2000s into the early 2010s. Okay. And so dog crap training was super popular from Dante Trudel. This is like a power bodybuilding type guy. And I also just want to throw out there, power building was super popular 2000 teens. Now what they do is they get into just hammering out with minimal, like what appears to be minimal guidance, right? So what we had known, I want to read this to you, is that with the multi-rep rest pause theory that had been dubbed dog crap training, and dog crap was what, if I remember, I think Dante Trudel used to be on T Nation, would post on there. So they would go through and they would actually set up a lot of rest pause throughout the entire session. So this is what it would look like, let's say on a flat bench for barbell press. Okay, so you're going to do a flat bench. So you're going to do 3 specific warm-up set in a moderate to fast controlled cadence. First, you're going to do 60 pounds, 30% of the 8 to 10 rep. Then you're going to do for 10 reps. Then you're going to do 100 pounds and then 160 pounds. Okay, so let's say that you're going to try to do for a 10 repper, 200 pounds is really hard for you. So that's how you're going to warm up. You're going to go 60 pounds, 100 pounds, 160 pounds for 4. So then we're going to get into, you're going to perform the main bench set with 200 pounds for 3 all-out sets. So you're going to do 8 to 10 reps till you die, right? You're going to go till you're toast. You're going to do 10 to 15 breaths, and then you're going to do 3 to 4 reps. Then you're going to do 10 to 15 breaths, and then you're going to do 1 to 3 reps. Okay, so that's all you're going to do then. That's going to be stimulate, fatigue, put tension on the fibers, try to hope that it grows, right? And then on the final rep of that third, you're going to do a 20-second ISO. So you're sort of combining rest pause with crazy isometric. You're getting a lot of tension, and you're just absolutely murdered. So let's go back over the first 2. Demon training, basically 2 pre-exhausts into a compound. Dog crap, you're doing rest pause where you're going to go, let's say, to failure for 10 reps, take 10 to 15 breaths. That probably is going to be around 45 seconds. Then you're going to do around 3 to 5 reps. Then you're going to take about 45 seconds. You're going to do 3 reps. So that would be dog crap. Okay. Literally, that's going to be dog crap. Now, extended sets. This is when we're really going to get into it. So you might do something like a wide grip front, a wide grip lat pull down, 5 sets of 6 reps. And then the second part, you're going to do close grip reverse lat pull down, 5 sets of 10 to 12 reps. And this is sort of like a just standard, let's really try and just go back and forth instead of having an antagonistic set, where you're doing like a bench into a row. We're just going to go big time lats into a little bit easier lats, and we're just hammering. Or we're going chest with like a wider grip on the bench into neutral grip dumbbell bench. And you're hitting the same muscles almost on the exact same plane, but you can get a crazy, crazy stimulus. Now here's one that's interesting is like, I think this book came out in 2009, if I remember. And I just want you to know, like, this book, when it came out, I don't even remember how I found out about it. I think it was on T Nation, but you start to see like they just had so much freaking awesome stuff in here. 2010. I was probably on scouring the T Nation forums and just came into this. What is FST7? So, Hani Rambod devised after years of research and a great deal of trial and error. FST7 stands for fascia strength training. Fascia stretch training. So this is interesting because fascia is super popular right now. So we're looking at 2010 fascia stretch training. What's up, guys? Our podcast and our channel are sponsored by our own strength training app, Peak Strength. The entire focus of Peak Strength is to provide you guys with the absolute best sports performance app that you could ever imagine. We build out the programs on the back end. We take in all of these different decisions that we learned here on site at Garage Strength so that we can then apply it to you so you can improve your training. So if you guys want to improve your overall sports performance, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. Download Peak Strength. You'll get a free week of training, and then you can start getting on those gains, get those reps done so that you can become a champion. Now, let's get back to the video. Peace. And the 7 refers to the 7 sets of 8 to 12 reps, 30 to 45 seconds between each set performed for the final exercise of a target muscle group. So here's an example. You might do a dumbbell bench, 3 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps. Then you go preacher curl, 3 by 8 to 12. Then you do the FST7 easy curl bar, 7 sets of 8 to 12 reps. And you're doing 8 to 12 reps, rest 30 seconds. 8 to 12 reps, rest 30 seconds. And so you're doing this, and then you're sort of stretching at the same time. And he even had, I don't think this website's still around, but it was like FST7.com. No, he's not paying for a plug or anything, not that it matters. But that's like something that is really where you're just hammering the same group over and over again. Now, for me, I had been doing this next one prior to this, mainly because Poliquin had influenced me with hammering out giant sets and being able to hit big giant sets of different exercises. And so this could be, and I want to walk you through this, like a big giant set could be like 6 to 8 exercises. You're going to do a dumbbell fly, a bench, an incline dumbbell fly, an incline bench, a decline dumbbell fly, and then a decline bench. And you might do 2 sets of that, okay? But you're basically using a form of pre-exhaust. It's a giant set, and what it's going to come down to is, and I actually like to set it up almost like I call it around the world, where I'll go military to incline to flat to decline. And you sort of just roll through that because I think, military is harder. Incline's the second hardest, then you get the flat bench, then you got the decline. So a back example here of a giant set might be bent over lateral raise versus a bent over row versus a decline pullover versus a lat pull versus a hyperextension versus stiff-legged deadlift. And so you're sort of just building through each aspect of the back. And so that's that next aspect. So we're looking at giant sets, FST7, dog crap training, demon training. Now, those aren't even my favorites. Let's get into this next one. Okay. This one, You got to bear with me. Okay, so it's myogenetic set. This is going to be from Kerry Knowlton, former pro wrestler, chiropractic, myogenetic set. Warm up with a muscle-specific isolation exercise. So, that's like a preacher curl for your biceps. Load up a barbell with an amount near your 1 rep max for that. Do your first rep. If the weight is not quite heavy enough, then use very strict form and do a super slow rep that's 10 seconds up, 10 seconds down. If the weight is too heavy, then you may use some controlled cheating. Okay? After each single rep, quickly remove enough poundage so that you can get another rep, and you don't stop. You literally don't stop. So you're like basically all but maxing out. And then you're going to take a little weight off, you do it again. A little weight off, you do it again. And you're going to go through this. After each rep, you quickly remove enough poundage so that you can get another set or another rep and another rep. And then you perform 8 to 10 consecutive singles, doing only 1 or 2 sets per muscle group, right? So we're looking at this, and you're really only going through this 1 or 2 times, depending upon the muscle group. And then we're going to work with each muscle group only once per week. So that's another crazy, that's the myogenetic set. I've only ever played around with that one like twice. Now, they're talking about occlusion training. Again, this is back 2009, and we're looking at Katsu at the time. We're looking at, I'm pretty sure there's even a Katsu protocol in here. And then they were looking at some of the stuff, like all BFR, right? The cool thing, too, is they actually get into some wild stuff on the Smith machine. Now, this is where I prefer, so this book's got an actual pre-exhaust chart, which I think is freaking phenomenal. And essentially what it is like, let's just clarify this. This is the pre-exhaust principle, okay, invented by one of the authors of this book from the late 60s, Robert Kennedy. No, not RFK Jr. If you start with an exercise that works your chest, but takes your triceps out of the equation, and then fully blast your pecs with a compound exercise, you have successfully used the pre-exhaust method. So let's say in this case, okay, we're looking at this, and we want to do some type of pec. So we're going to do a dumbbell fly or a decline dumbbell fly. We're going to do that basically to failure. Then we're going to go hit a bench right after it, about 30 seconds rest, and we're going to take that just about to failure. And you might do 3, 4, 5 sets of that. Okay. So that's one way, to get a huge spark in growth and size. But also if you have somebody who, honestly, at the gym here, we'll have kids do things like this if they tend to be a little bit slower twitch, if they're not as athletic, and they struggle to have a mind-muscle connection with things like a clean or something like that. We will try to figure out how to get them to feel their legs, how to get them to feel more explosive, how to get them to feel stronger. Now, pre-exhaust principle plus mass building and strength building. This is from Dave Draper. So you might begin with seated behind the neck press, done in straight sets of a pyramid for 4 sets of 10, 8, 6, 6. You're going to add weight each time. Now, only after you complete these size and strength building sets, then you do pre-exhaust. So really you're just doing a single exercise. You're building up, you're building up, you're building up. You're going to a heavy set of 5 or 6. And then after you do 4 to 5 sets, now what you can do is you can isolate the lats, or you can isolate the delts, and you might do 10 to 12 reps on the delt, and then you're going on the high dumbbell incline and you're doing a dumbbell incline press for the delts as well. So you're sort of taking a traditional method, just building strength, and then you're backdooring it on this side, adding in crazy, crazy volume. And that's a big thing here that I want to go into quick, is when you're reading this book, you start to recognize very quickly that the old school methods, it's like, these are the intense training methods, right? And these are the crazy techniques that promoted intense workouts, supersets, drop sets, pyramid training, and they're all phenomenal tactics. There's all types of tactics that you can use for specific goals. And so when you take these and you play around with them and you test them out and you're saying, okay, for this specific goal, I can try this. For this, I can try that. You see how it feels. You see how it works. Then you use it in the gym. And now you're trying to see what type of growth that you can get, even from your athletes, like how much, can we trigger some type of actual increase. And then you start to learn, like, really, this is the way to become a freak, right? Like this is the way that you've got to make these gains. So we'll actually use a lot of these tactics inside of our strength training app, Peak Strength. We'll sit here and say, okay, we use pre-exhaust. Let's put that into Peak Strength. Okay, we use drop sets. Let's put that into Peak Strength. Okay, we use antagonistic supersets. That's like our foundational way of developing crazy amounts of strength by getting a ton of volume inside of Peak Strength. Let's use it. So if you guys are interested in taking that training to the next level, Peak Strength is our strength training app that we've put together with tactics from this book, with tactics from old school bodybuilding. There's a link down in the description. Okay, click on that link, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, Apple iOS Store, download Peak Strength. Make sure you get in there. You get a free week of training, start training on that. And you can also leave us a sweet review if you don't mind and get on those gains. Now, going back to this pre-exhaust, because what I like to do, I want to provide a couple more examples here. Biceps would be, you do a bicep curl with a barbell, then you do a lat pull down with a close grip, with a chin grip. Then you do a preacher curl into a chin up, and then you could do a lying dumbbell curl into lat pull down to chest. I've always liked to do, especially with wrestlers, a lot of pre-exhaust before the main lift. I actually even have another book I was thinking about bringing out here and doing there it is, the positions of flexion, and we have another book. There's like 3 or 4 bodybuilding books that I have on this. Now we got double pre-exhaust. Now we're like, basically I want to give you guys some more of these tactics that you could take. You could try them today. Double pre-exhaust. Perform the barbell bench press to your neck. Okay, and we're actually coming out with a video where we did like a decline bench to the neck. Okay, decline bench to the neck lights up your pecs. Crazy pec pump like you've never had. Okay, crazy. Now, perform the barbell bench to the neck, immediately followed by the dumbbell fly, and then you follow that up with dips, but you're only doing the negatives and pushing back up. And then you perform the incline dumbbell bench immediately after that, followed by the pec deck. So basically you're trying to do multiple pre-fatigues, the compound, and then on the back end, you're going to do something simple that's in isolation like a pec deck until you can't feel your pecs at all. So the pre-exhaust post-pump would be, if we would do something like pre-exhaust post-pump would be, okay, let's do a pre-exhaust, so a leg extension. Okay, now let's go do front squats. Okay, that's going to light up our quads, so we hit the front squats. Okay, after the front squats, let's do sled pull backwards until you can't walk. That's a pre-exhaust post-pump. So we just gave you like 3 different versions of the pre-exhaust with the pre-exhaust post-pump or anything like that. So the fact that this book has all of these things in it, I think there's 29, this chapter, there's 29 red line intensity manipulation techniques. Psycho burst training. Let's get into, okay, here's one. This is where I have like my favorite. Reciprocity. They're giving a shout out here to Poliquin. We'll get into pyramid training actually first, then we'll go into the reciprocity training. Okay, because after we get through these tactics, I do want to get into some of the other big factors here around phasing, around mindset. And I think that's the big thing is like you got mindset, you got nutrition, you got the absolute keys around muscular growth. And then the big factor here is like, okay, you have all these tactics. When can I use it? What can I use it on? How should I use it and whatnot? Okay, pyramid training. You're simply adding poundage and decreasing the rep schemes. We know this pretty well. You're going to be doing a barbell curl. Let's say you start at 12 reps, and then you lower that from 12 reps on the next set. You got on to 10. Then your next set you go on to 8, and then the next set you go, you'd go down to 6. So that's one style of pyramid. Another style would be you do 12 reps there, and then your next 2 sets you actually go up to 14, something like that. And so there's multiple different ways that you can do this. And so what I would like to see here when I'm using this is typically we'll do something like almost partially a wave, but I like to do like a 7-5-3-3 or 10-8-6-5. Those great pyramids. Now the reciprocity work is where this is Poliquin, and it's revolving around antagonistic work. Okay, so and I believe that this method could be the entire basis of your training system, because it's essentially the basis for our entire system. Is like, okay, you're going to do a push and a pull. Okay, so on the upper body day, we're doing a push and we're doing a pull. Okay, on our leg day, we're going to do squats. I actually like to do squats with abs. Okay, I want to do on my accessories, I want to do hamstring work and quad work. Okay, if I'm on my upper body day, after I do bench, I want to do some reverse flies together. We're going to do that supersetted. If we're doing a military press, I want to do some type of like upper trap work with like a shrug. Okay, so there's multiple different methods that you can use. Now, they take the reciprocity there, the antagonistic superset, and then they're getting into rest pause. Okay, so if we're looking at rest pause, 75 to 80% of the maximum poundage you currently use when you do a normal set of an exercise. So if you use a behind the, let's say use a bench press, 200 pounds for 10, you reduce the weight down to 150. You do 10 reps and then you rest for 10 seconds. And then you perform 9 rests. You rest for 10 seconds. And you just keep hitting this depending upon your stamina until you're at the point where you can't even move the barbell anymore. Okay, so you go 10, maybe the next set you get 8, next set you get 5, next set you get 3, next set you get 3, next set you get 1, next set you're done. That's a rest pause training. Okay, another one would be you warm up with 60% of your current 6 rep max. Okay, you perform 8 to 10 reps. Okay, so 60% of that for the warm up. You increase the poundage, making certain you are able to perform 6 solid reps. You perform these reps and then you rest for 60 seconds, and you do this for a total of 10 sets. That's the big factor of this book, is that it's entirely volume based. But when we're talking about volume based for younger kids, for people just getting into strength and conditioning, it's huge. A lot of people want to shy away from it. A lot of people think they don't need it as much. They'll read like, oh, well, more elite athletes, maybe they don't need as much volume. Younger kids, or they'll read younger kids don't need as much volume because they adapt so quickly. And it's like, oh, I'm not a younger kid. There's so many freaking adults that would benefit from just doing like 5 to 6 sets instead of doing 3. Like, just double it. Double the amount of sets. Just do 2 warm-ups and then 5 sets. Do 3 warm-ups and then do 6 sets. Guess what happens? You get 6 sets done in 20 minutes, and all of a sudden that's your whole workout, and you're freaking pumped and swollen. Okay, now I'm going to go into the Riot bombing, because the Riot bombing is one that you got to like bear with me here, okay? Because it can be a little crazy. As far as we can tell, the only published method. Okay, so this is the only published method of bombing. Riot bombing appeared in one of the Joe Weider magazines from the mid-'60s. So you guys, we've probably never covered riot bombing in the entire archives of all of YouTube. We should be Googling this right now and screen recording us Googling riot bombing. And there's outside riot bombing bodybuilding. Make sure we're actually putting that into YouTube. And when we're looking at this, it's a dude named Irvin Kajeski, okay? Champion bodybuilder known for his abs, okay? So many West Coast Muscle Beach bodybuilders would use this method with tremendous results. I always feel like that's like tremendous results. Riot bombing involved only 2 exercises, one for each muscle group. Some exercise combinations for riot bombing include alternating barbell front squats with leg curls, bench press with bent arm pullovers, dips and incline dumbbell curls, or bent over rows with dips. Okay, so you do 20 sets for each muscle group. So you're going to take this out. You're going to perform 20 sets of front squats and 20 sets of leg curls. When you're performing the 20 sets for one muscle group before going to the next exercise, this could make the workout very long, but we're going to do it in a superset fashion. You're going to start with poundage that you can easily handle for 10 reps, and a compound exercise for 14 reps in an isolation. So they're basically saying, okay, 10 reps compound, 14 isolation. That's usually what we should be starting off with. After the second set, add poundage and do 8 reps or 12 reps. Then add weight on your 8th set and do sets of 6 reps or 10 reps if you're doing isolation. On your 14th set, increase to a poundage that will accommodate a rep scheme of 4 reps or 8. On the 16th, reduce the poundage so that you can do the same rep pattern listed in step 5. Okay, and so you're going through 20 sets like this, playing back and forth with riot bombing, and you're just going front squat, leg curl, front squat, leg curl, front squat, leg curl. The intensity level in riot bombing is extremely high because of the limited rest intervals between the supersets. If your goal is to increase your muscle mass, you should do it for 30 to 50 seconds. Aim for only 15 seconds if you're looking for sharper muscularity. So, riot bombing is recommended only for advanced bodybuilders. Now, I do think there's a point for us to riot bomb. This is so funny. For us to look at this and say, all right, we want to constantly make our workouts harder, right? By doing like, you watch Joel Seedman, you do all this crazy stuff, and you're going, I have to do this. I have to try this, right? I have to do it. And you look back at some of this stuff and you're going, no one really thinks about riot bombing. No one really thinks like, let's try this. Let's just do it. Let's do 20 freaking sets. 20 sets and just get front squat, leg curl, front squat, leg curl. Because guess what? Front squat's going to get you stupid strong. Leg curl's going to get you freaking striated on the hamstrings. So these tactics, like, they're unbelievably good, and people don't want to do them. So we got trisets, we got 21s up and down the rack, Cybergenics, points to remember. So, okay, so that's the 29. I think we're good on that. The thing that I wanted to go into now, page 148. Well, actually, if you look at even in the beginning of this, they go into the most important aspect. Yes, these guys are all on gas and whatnot, but they talk a lot about actual nutrition here and like what should you be doing, and then like different, like this is actually like genuinely. I'm gonna write this down right now. Page 61 is one of the best charts. It goes, okay, complex carbs. So let's go carbs, protein. Listen to this. This is so simple. Stop watching so many freaking like YouTube influencers and actually look at this and go, okay, if we're going to maintain, we want 8 grams per kilo of body weight for carbs, which would be 8 grams per kilo. So if I weighed 100 kilos, I'm having 800. That's wild. 2 grams per kilo of body weight for protein. So if I weigh 100 kilos, I'm having 200. 0.65 grams of fat. So that's a lot of fat. So now you have this laid out, right? And then you can go, okay, to gain, I want to have 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight of protein. 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight of fat. And you can build that out. But they'll even get into like shakes. They've got meals in here. They're even talking about dairy and milk products, and like some people have issues, some people don't. And I think that's the whole huge part here is it's like these dudes had this stuff dialed in. They have foods to avoid, candy, commercial chocolate, commercial cereals, airline food, fast food. That's funny they said airline food. Cooking methods, how to cook things properly, bake or boil, use the right cooking oil. This is 2010. This shit's not new. Getting into sleep and recovery, talking about the impacts of steroids, genetic potential, motivation. Okay, so now let's go into page 148. Yeah. Okay, so right here we're on page 148. And this is where they get into like super focused things like how should your head and back alignment be when you're squatting? Hold the head forward. Don't go too high. Don't go too low. Okay. Let the knees track forward. Let your butt sit back. Where should your foot placement be? This is the type of gains that you should see. Where should the barbell back squat? Where should the bar positioning be? The placement of the bar as it relates to your shoulders before you unrack it is called the bar position. Positioned across the trap muscles, approximately 1 inch below the top of your shoulders. These are high bar guys. They want to get more size. Okay, more size. The squatting myth, the flat bench, okay, body alignment, the control center. So they're just going through all of these conventional lifts because you have to have foundational movements to be absolute dogs. Okay, you have to look at things and say, all right, I want to set up my exercises, my training, so that I have foundational movements that are going to freaking get me big. Now, I want to go through this. They're talking about sauna. They're talking about jacuzzis, training expectations, what to expect when you're going through things. Now, here's a. I want to try and find a split. Okay, so here's a split that we've got laid out from Dan Duchesne. Okay, this is the way the split's set up. You're going Monday, delts, bis, tris. Tuesday, quads, hamstrings, calves, and abs. So he must be riot bombing. Wednesday off. Friday, chest and back. Saturday off. Okay. Now, body contract exercise selection. So we're looking at how they have these exercise selection. It's going push down cables, single arm dumbbell tricep extensions, dips. And you can see that the way that they set these things up, they've got their splits, they've got their movements per group, and they're really trying to dial that in on, what are the movements that we want to use because they're the absolute best, and how can we continuously build out over a long period of time. Larry Scott 4-day definition program. Okay, now I want to go into what were we going into here? Page 2. And this is one thing I've been playing around with quite a bit more with our training is like we're going off of either week 1 and week 4 are the same, or week 1 and week 3 are the same, week 2 and week 4 are the same then. So we're sort of undulating back and forth. But I've even been playing around quite a bit where like week 1, 3, 5, and 7 are the same. 2, 4, 6, and 8 are the same. But they're back and forth. And it gives a more advanced athlete a little bit more time. And that's sort of like that phasic setup. So the way that these guys did in Huge and Freaky, this is the book, okay, right here. Honestly, I think this is probably like one of the best books that you can possibly buy. They're going over like British powerlifting system and how can you use this, for bodybuilding? How can we use this for strength training and getting into things here? And how many total reps would we be using? So the way that the British system works is they have their 3 powerlifting system exercises based off a 12-week cycle. Monday, squat dead. Tuesday, bench. Friday, bench. Saturday, squat dead. And then you come back and you go 3 days, okay? So you're basically going 1 week's 4 days, the next week 3, the next week 4, the next week 3, the next week 4. And then you can start to really, really push those specific aspects. Here's another thing. Dude, I love this chart too. Page 219. 219. You got more specific tactics here. Each cycle is 4 weeks of length. You've got a very specific high-intensity growth phase, okay? And you're going into body focus, so standard 3-day split. You got mega mass. Each muscle group is stimulated with 2 different movements for a medium volume of sets. You got body blast, you got preflex. So preflex, we're talking about technique while we're flexing before we even actually hit the muscle. Superflex, mid-volume superset training that also has stretching involved. Power play, and we've got different types of actual cycles. And I think this is where you can see, an example, a mega mass example would be seated row, a 1-arm dumbbell row, a barbell bench, a high pulley cable, an incline sit-up. That's day 1, and you're doing 3 to 5 sets across the board. Now, I wanted to get back here because they do get into even more tactics as far as specific setups in everything, and specific setups even in like Soviet phase training, overcoming a training rut. Okay, so Soviet phase training, we're going to get into basically lifting freaking really heavy on specific compound movements on every single day. Contest prep. Okay. 10 guidelines for specialization. Okay, now take this here. 10 guidelines for specialization. This is the next big factor, and this I want to cover these because I think they're important. Crazy thing is here, I'm looking at this. It's like, oh, here's an upper chest workout. Incline barbell, incline dumbbell, incline cable pull, all 7 sets of 6. Barbell lunge, hack squat, leg curl, 5 to 7 sets, high volume. Then they get into cardio later on. They're getting into different aspects around actual how the muscles are working. Dude, this is freaking awesome. Okay, let's go back to this because I want to get into the 10 specialization guidelines. Now, choose exercises that enhance the most stimulation of size and strength of the muscle group that needs specialization. So if you have somebody and you're going, look, here's the anabolic core growth exercise selection chart. Okay, and I am lacking a specific issue. And because I'm lacking a specific issue, I need to find the anabolic muscle specialization chart. I want to see if we can find this. Strength and more fullness, and refer to the huge holistic exercise selection chart. I want to look this up. Huge holistic exercise selection chart. Choose exercises from these charts depending upon if you want more size, strength, whatever. Okay, to see positive results from a specialization program, you'll generally need a minimum of 4 to 8 weeks of diligent hard work. I would say minimum of 16 weeks. Okay, minimum of 16 to build things out. Then we got to set up the year where we're looking at, like, let's say a 10-month timeline of hard training, 2 months where you can sort of fiddle-faddle around. Specialization training will be most beneficial before mental burnout. So let's say you get 6 weeks of good training, then you have a deload week. I think that deloads should happen a lot less than they actually typically do. Okay. Next thing, it's a good idea to do a variety of exercises from many different angles to really stimulate the muscle differently and the fibers a little bit differently. It's important. I don't think it's the end all be all, but I think if you're doing an incline, a military, a flat, a decline, a dip, and you're also doing dumbbell variations of that, that'd be great. And you can do something similar for every specific movement pattern. Aside from specialization techniques, the remainder of your training program for moderate and superior muscle groups should follow this. Perform 2 exercises of 2 sets on each of your moderate muscle groups and 1 exercise of 2 sets on your superior. If you're a hard gainer, decrease the number. Specialize on only 1 muscle group, okay, at a given time. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, and I don't even use that anymore. Maintain a positive attitude and willpower. Put your specialization program at the very beginning of a scheduled morning or evening daily workout. I think the other aspect there is, like, put the muscle priority. I looked at this when when we started to really get into training. It's like, it's not just a muscle priority, it's the technique priority. It's the neural priority. It's the growth priority for specific movement patterns. Okay. Another way to structure your specialization is to perform in the morning, and then you can come back. So now you're doing doubles, right? And you're training 2 doubles for 40 minutes. Perform an easy to implement specialization routine on days that you don't have a workout scheduled, so you can sit back and do, a little bit easier lift. Now, I think it's important to just recognize that, like, we went over literally the Riot bombing, and you're looking at Riot bombing going, okay, that's a specific tactic. I think if you're looking at training in general, and where I go with Huge and Freaky, is that I'm looking at this and I'll use some tactics specifically if I am in like I've got a guy who struggles with lat development. He's a swimmer, but his lats are weak. We're going to do a tactic like pre-exhaust to try and get his lats to wake up. But that's going to be on his accessories after he does a big explosive lift, and then he does some type of, let's say, dips or high ring pull-ups, and then we're going to get into some of these tactics that we can then use. And I think that's the overarching lesson behind Huge and Freaky, is like laying out the split, and the split can be variable. There's so many different splits for success, but when we're looking at this, if we prioritize either the muscle or the patterns, right, the type of lifts that we want people to be successful with, that should be the first thing that we do. And then we start to bring in, okay, now we want somebody to get stronger. Okay, that's the second thing that we need. Now we want somebody to get a little bit more size in specific areas. Okay, that's where a lot of the unique tactics can go. And I think that's really the most important lesson behind Huge and Freaky is like, it all comes back to thinking about how we lay it out ahead of time. And ultimately, as well, we're prioritizing recovery. We're taking advantage of our nutrition. We're focusing on what we're eating. We're getting as much sleep as possible. We're staying as hydrated as we can. And if we're doing all those things, we're setting ourselves up for a tremendous amount of success, because the thing is that we have to remember is that training is a large amount of willpower. Training has a large amount of struggle. Training is not easy. And so if we're going to use these tactics, we have to be as dialed in as possible. And that's how you can become huge and freaky. If you guys want more content like this, click on this card right here. If you want training that's going to improve you to get huge and freaky, to become an absolute freak, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.